Greetings, I'm Walter D. Donnie Kennedy, Chief of Heritage Operation for the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and this is part 2 of Commander's Comment for December 2021. And as always, we're here with Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney. Glad to have you back, Commander.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
You know, we ended up the part 1 of this December issue talking about something. What was we talking about?
Well, we was discussing how they take them down and we put them back up.
Well,
and
you reminded me about something being put up.
Yes.
What was that?
The Mouton statue at Camp Moore in Louisiana. It had been taken down. It was a UDC statue. And the weekend before Thanksgiving, it was rededicated. It's back up there at Camp Moore in Louisiana.
And if you have not seen Camp Moore, you really need to go and take a look. It's just off of Highway 55. I would say about 15, 20 miles north of Hammond, Louisiana. So it's not far from the New Orleans metropolitan area, but it's Camp Moore, and that's one of the last, well, probably the only existing Confederate induction camp in Louisiana. And it's right on the Tangipahoa River. It's really beautiful, and they've got a nice a monument there. And now we have General Mouton's monument.
Yes.
And thank you for reminding me of that. In this part 2, I'd like to just go over some of the upcoming events that the Sons of Confederate Veterans that will be involved in for the next year coming up, so everybody kind of get their calendar ready. As most SEV members know, this January we celebrate Lee and Jackson's birthday. General Lee's birthday is on the 19th of January, and General Jackson's on the 21st. Commander, why do we celebrate Lee and Jackson so much?
Well, you know, yes, they're Southern icons, but they also represent the qualities of great American patriots. And that's the big reason why we observe these men. Let's remember, you know, we think about them as Confederate heroes, but they were American heroes way before they became Confederate heroes, with both men serving in the Mexican War and established themselves as heroes there.
Right.
And then going on in the future, Lee, of course, being the superintendent at West Point, and Jackson going on to become a professor at VMI. They had the opportunity to mold and shape young men's minds that would become future officers. And then they would establish themselves as Southern icons, Southern heroes. And it's one of our, I would say, mainstays in this organization that we recognize these heroes on the time of their birthdays. It's not just those two men that we recognize others.
Oh, absolutely.
But those two are the main ones that we try to make a huge deal out of, because in a lot of states, these are still state holidays.
Right. And it's interesting, they fall just a few days apart. That is really interesting. And one point I always like to make to people, they talk about, well, you know, they had this flaw, that flaw. Heroes are not angels.
No.
Heroes are not, and we don't celebrate people because they're perfect. We celebrate them because they're exceptional, imperfect human beings.
Exactly.
Of all the community of human beings, we're all imperfect, but these people are exceptional, and they have exceptional qualities. Robert E. Lee, we mentioned him earlier. In Idaho, some church had a stained glass mural removed because Lee was, quote, a slaveholder. What was the story of Lee and slaveholder?
Well, the slaves that he had as a slaveholder were actually passed down to him from his father-in-law, and it was his father-in-law's wishes that Lee would eventually emancipate them. Yeah. And it took time, but eventually he did emancipate those slaves. But you know, since we're talking about qualities of Lee, let's remember that after the war, while he was at his Episcopal church, a black man comes in and kneels up front, and a lot of people would not go up there and kneel next to him to accept communion. Right. What does Lee do? He gets up, kneels right down next to him, and accepts communion with him.
And the communion bar was filled up.
Yes.
The altar was filled up because people saw, they followed Lee. his example. And that's what we try to do. Obviously, General Lee would be the first to tell you, I'm not a perfect human being.
Right.
I always like when he was president of Washington University, what is now Washington Lee University, a gentleman met him on campus one day and was talking about what a great man he was, how honored he was to meet General Lee, and just praising General Lee, who, as far as we're concerned, deserved it. But General Lee stopped and said, thank you, I appreciate that, but remember, I am nothing but a poor, lost sinner trusting in Christ only for salvation.
Exactly.
That is a hero.
Yes.
That is the type of individual we want to point our children to. It doesn't matter if you're born in the north, south, east, west. You could be a European, an African, or Asian. That's the kind of man you want your children to grow up to be. And Jackson was the same way. Everybody should know the story of Jackson and the Sunday school, black Sunday school.
Yes.
Jackson taught his black Sunday school children to read.
Which was against the law at that
And Jackson
time.
said, no, they need to know how to read to better themselves and to be able to read the Holy Bible and learn about God's will for them. That's the kind of man Jackson was.
And these are the qualities that we aspire as Americans.
Absolutely. And that's why we celebrate, really, our Lee Jackson banquet. So if you get a chance, by all means, folks, go to your local Lee Jackson banquet. And I'm recommended that every SCV unit that has a Lee Jackson banquet, send a note, an invitation to your local elected official. Invite some of them in. They may never come, but they'll never know that there's such a thing as a Lee Jackson banquet until you extend an invitation to them.
Exactly.
So invite people to these things so they can see what's
You
going on.
never know whose heart you may touch.
Absolutely. All right, that's in January. Now, I notice in February, I believe past Commander-in-Chief Chuck McMichael is heading up the Stephen D. Lee Institute this year.
Yes, yeah, and it's in my home state of Mississippi on the Gulf Coast. And the host site is Beauvoir, the last home of our President Jefferson Davis.
Absolutely. Great place. Now, I think I've got a schedule here, and there's going to be some really dynamic speakers there.
Well, first, tell them what the theme is.
Oh, yes, the theme is 21st Century Confederates. Now, think about that. 21st century. Most people thought the Confederacy died in the 19th century, but we've outlived them all. We're still here. And we are facing unique problems just like our ancestors in the 19th century faced and in the 20th century. And we're going to look at how do we face these problems? How do we protect our heritage, our liberty, our rights as Southerners and as Americans? And we've got an outstanding group of people. And as the commander said, it's going to be at Beauvoir. If you have not seen Beauvoir, the last home of our President Jefferson Davis, please make arrangement. Now, I've got here, you can go on the website. It's www.stephendleeinstitute.com. You go to the website, or you can just Google Stephen S.D. Lee Institute, and you can find out more information. And I'm sure we'll get that URL posted on the on this video. So by all means, come on down and take a look at what's going on. Now, that's in February. In April, of course, we're always celebrating Confederate history. In April, we'll have a lot of things going on then locally. But I understand in May, Commander, we've got something special going on at Elm Springs.
Oh, yes, it's the first weekend in May. It is our pilgrimage to Elm Springs, our annual pilgrimage, is where on the national level we get a chance to observe our Confederate Memorial Day, but it's also sort of like a homecoming. Mm-hmm. And this year it would be special because we have General Forrest now on the grounds there.
Great.
So if you would like to make that pilgrimage to Elm Springs and remember our ancestors and remember the General, bring a floral tribute as well, because we'll be presenting floral tributes at the General's grave.
That's great. Now, last year we did floral tribute at Jefferson Davis Monument. So this year we're going to do one or both? Or
we're going to do it at General Forrest's gravesite.
Okay, that is marvelous. Well, that's good. That's May. Do you know the date on it? Is it the first weekend?
First weekend of May. I believe it's either the 6th or the 7th, but it's the first Saturday in May.
Okay, well, that's great. All right. Then in July, understand we have an SCV reunion coming up, and somebody after that reunion will no longer be commander in chief.
And to be honest, even though I have about 6 months left in my term, I'm not a lame duck commander in chief. I am sitting here and I am working all the way until the last vote is counted, and we have a new commander in chief.
And we're looking forward to that event. Now, it's going to be held July the 20th through the 23rd is when the actual convention is held in Cartersville, Georgia. And again, folks, look at your Confederate veteran. When you get your Confederate veteran, you'll get your information on how to register for that event, and we look forward to seeing you in Cartersville. And they want the Georgia boys have got a lot going on. They got a lot of tours.
They got a huge schedule of events that's going on. It's a lot of tours, a lot of things, because you got to remember that's right there during the Atlanta campaign tours that they're going to be pushing. Exactly.
Yeah, so it looks fantastic. By all means, make plans to be with us. We've got a lot going on, folks. It's our job to pass on to future generations what that war was all about and why our ancestors fought the war for Southern independence, and let people know who we are as the sons of Confederate veterans and why our ancestors deserve to be respected. And only you and I can do it. And we've got future generations.
And remember, Donnie, if not us,
who?
If not now,
when? And folks, with that, we're going to be in this December 2021 second part, Commander's Comment. We'll see y'all next year. God bless you and God save the South.